Okay, so I am reading Dracula. I read it earlier today and I had so much fun with it. I read it for like 2 hours and I feel like I want to read some more. Sue me. All right. If you haven't seen the previous parts, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my pronunciation of certain things. I'm not the best at that. But let's go ahead and get into it. This morning, as I was sitting on the edge of my bed, cudgeling my brains, I heard without a cracking of whips and pounding and scraping of horses' feet up the rocky path beyond the courtyard. With joy, I hurried to the window and saw drive into the yard 2 great leather wagons, each drawn by 8 sturdy horses, and at the head of each pair a Slavic, with his wide hat, great nail-studded belt, dirty sheepskin, and high boots. They had also their long staves in hand. I ran to the door, intending to descend and try and join them through the main hall, as I thought that way might be open for them. Again a shock, my door was fastened on the outside. Then I ran to the window and cried to them. They looked up at me stupidly and pointed, but just then the hetman of the Snagni came out, and seeing them pointing to my window, said something at which they laughed. Henceforth no effort of mine, no piteous cry or agonized entreaty would make them even look at me. They resolutely turned away. The leader wagons continued great square boxes with handles of thick rope. These were evidently empty by the ease with which the Slavics handled them, and by their resonance as they were roughly moved. When they were all unloaded and packed in a great heap in one corner of the yard, the Slavics were given some money by the Snagni, and, spitting on it for luck, lazily went each to his horse's head. Shortly afterwards, I heard the cracking of their whips die away in the distance. June 24th, before morning. Last night, the Count left me early and locked himself into his own room. As soon as I dared, I ran up to the winding stair and looked out of the window, which opened south. I thought I would watch for the Count, for there is something going on. The Sagni are quartered somewhere in the castle and are doing work of some kind. I know it, for now and then I fear a far muffled sound as of mattock and spade, and, whatever it is, it must be the end of some ruthless villainy. I had been at the window somewhat less than half an hour when I saw something coming out of the Count's window. I drew back and watched carefully and saw the whole man emerge. It was a new shock to me to find that he had on the suit of clothes which I had worn whilst traveling here, and slung over his shoulder the terrible bag which I had seen the woman take away. There could be no doubt as to his quest, and in my garb, too. This, then, is his new scheme of evil, that he will allow others to see me as they think, so that he may both leave evidence, and I have been seen in the towns or villages posting my own letters, and that any wickedness which he may do shall by the local people be attributed to me. Let me see what everyone's saying. Hi, how are you? I'm doing good, John. How are you? On a cold winter morning in the time before the light and flames and dust eternal rain, we ride towards the fight. Yes, beautiful. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me. We are reading Dracula. I read this earlier for about 2 hours and is genuinely really engrossing me. So I just thought, wait for it to get a little dark. Got a little candle. I'm afraid that I'm gonna make my phone fall by any small movement, but I have a little candle right here. And we are gonna set this. Please welcome Art the Clown. Oh God, no, Art. Art, please have mercy. Okay, wow. I had been at the window somewhat less than half an hour when I saw something coming out of the Count's window. I drew back and watched carefully and saw the whole man. Oh, I already read that part. Sorry. Art the Clown is getting me nervous. Please welcome. No. Wait, y'all know. Don't say that. Lessons for all. He's gonna find you. Also, why are we talking about Diddy? Okay. It makes me rage to think that this can go on, and whilst I am shut up here, a veritable prisoner, but without that protection of the law, which is even a criminal's right and consolation. I thought I would watch for the Count's return, and for a long time sat doggedly at the window. Then I began to notice that there were some quaint little specks floating in the rays of the moonlight. They were like the tiniest grains of dust, and they whirled round and gathered in clusters in a nebulous sort of way. I watched them with a sense of soothing, and a sort of calm stole over me. I leaned back in the embrasure in a more comfortable position so that I could enjoy more fully the aerial gambolling. Something made me start up, a low, piteous howling of dogs somewhere far below in the valley, which was hidden from my sight. Louder it seemed to ring in my ears, and the floating motes of dust to take new shapes to the sound as they danced in the moonlight. I felt myself struggling to awake to some call of my instincts. Nay, my very soul was struggling, and my half-remembered sensibilities were striving to answer the call. I was becoming hypnotized. Quicker and quicker danced the dust. The moonbeams seemed to quiver as they went by me into the mass of gloom beyond. More and more they gathered till they seemed to take dim phantom shapes. And then I stared, broad awake and in full possession of my senses, and ran screaming from the place. Finally, the phantom shapes, which were becoming gradually materialized from the moonbeams, were those three ghostly women to whom I was doomed. I fled and felt somewhat safer in my own room, where there was no moonlight and where the lamp was burning brightly. Yeah, there's like 3 women in this book so far, and I gotta say, I think of the Hex Girls, honestly. Okay. Let me see. Someone said I'm scared now. Yeah, me too. You'll regret that mockery. Art, please. Art, it's not me. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm always here for you. Oh my gosh, what are you saying? No, literally. I'm reading Dracula, Bram Stoker. The boy said, "Are you gay?" I don't know who the boy is, but the answer to that question is yes. Hi, BW55. I have not seen you in forever. It's so good to see you again. Wow. Okay. When a couple of hours had passed, I heard something stirring in the Count's room, something like a sharp wail quickly suppressed. And then there was silence, deep, awful silence, which chilled me. With a beating heart, I tried the door, but I was locked in my prison and could do nothing. I sat down and simply cried. As I sat, I heard a sound in the courtyard without, the agonized cry of a woman. I rushed to the window and, throwing it up, peered between the bars. There, indeed, was a woman with disheveled hair, holding her hands over her heart as one distressed with running. She was leaning against the corner of the gateway. When she saw my face at the window, she threw herself forward and shouted in a voice laden with menace, "Monster, give me my child." Oh, damn. She threw herself on her knees and, raising up her hands, cried the same words in tone which wrung my heart. Then she tore her hair and beat her breasts and abandoned herself to all the violences of extravagant emotion. Finally, she threw herself forward, and though I could not see her, I could hear the beating of her naked hands against the door. Somewhere high overhead, probably on the tower, I heard the voice of the Count calling in his harsh, metallic whisper. His calls seemed to be answered from far and wide by the howling of wolves. Before many minutes had passed, a pack of them poured, like a pent-up dam, when liberated, through the wide entrance into the courtyard. There was no cry from the woman, and the howling of the wolves was but short. Before long, they streamed away singly, licking their lips. I could not pity her, for I knew now what had become of her child, and she was better dead. What shall I do? What can I do? How can I escape from this dreadful thing of night, gloom, and fear? If y'all are hearing noises, that's my cat having the time of his life right now. Taylor, I'm new. What's happening? Sorry, I'm reading Dracula. I'm like having a field day with this book. Well, let's see how long you last. Art. Hope you're not talking to me, Art. I'm your day one, okay? Dude, I'm sober and my 2 favorite people are behind you, subscribed. Period. Thank you. I appreciate that. We love sobriety here. Sobriety is the best. The book is, well, I mean, but if you're not sober, then, there's people out there that have to be sober to live. So no offense to anybody that's not sober, but yeah, period. And the book is Dracula. Bram Stoker. Okay. Just earlier in the book, these women, these three women who I call the Hex Girls because I don't know too much about the Dracula lore so far, they drank the blood of like a child that was in a bag, and now the mother of that child came to the castle trying to ask about where her child is, and then Dracula sicked the dogs on her. I'm like, what? I was not expecting all, you know what I mean? I wasn't expecting all this. This is dork. This is dork, y'all. This is dork. How are you doing? Nice to see you live. Dude, you seem so cool. You're all on my list. Art. Y'all better start making friends with Art the Clown in here because I can't protect y'all. Dude, you seem cool. Thank you. I really appreciate that. How are you doing? Nice to see you live. I am doing so good. And, you know, I've been thinking about you the other day. I haven't seen you much in, I mean, no shade or anything. Obviously, everybody has a life. But, you know, I haven't seen you a lot in my comments. BWU55. It's good to see you again. I love you very much. I love frat gooners. You know, you like what you like. Sick bandana. Thank you. Well, you know, what a double whammy with that one. I love frat gooners and sick bandana. I'll take it. I'll take it. All right, I need to see what happens with this man. June 25th morning. No man knows till he has suffered from the night how sweet and dear to his heart and eye the morning can be. Wow, that's beautiful. When the sun grew so high this morning that it struck the top of the great gateway opposite my window, the high spot which it touched seemed to me as if the dove from the ark had lighted there. My fear fell from me as if it had been a vaporous garment which dissolved in the warmth. I must take action of some sort whilst the courage of the day is upon me. Last night, one of my post-dated letters went to post, the first of the fatal series which is to blot out the very traces of my existence from the earth. Let me not think of it. Action. Okay. It has always been at nighttime that I have been molested or threatened, or in some way in danger or in fear. Molested? In Dracula's castle? I have not yet seen the Count in the daylight. Can it be that he sleeps when others wake? That he may be awake whilst they sleep? If I could only get into his room, but there is no possible way. The door is always locked. No way for me. Yet, y'all, I'm so honest, there's always a way into a locked door. Like, you don't really have to try that hard, but I guess this was like back in the day, so. Yes, there is a way if one dares to take it. Oh, damn! He clocked me. All right, period. Well, there is a way if one dares to take it. When his body has gone, why may not another body go? I have seen him myself crawl from his window. Why should I not imitate him and go in by his window? The chances are desperate, but my need is more desperate still. I shall risk it. At the worst, it can only be death. And a man's death is not a calf's, and the dreaded hereafter may still be open to me. God help me in my task. Goodbye, Mina, if I fail. Goodbye, my faithful friend and second father. Goodbye, all, and last of all, to Mina. Yo, we're on page 47. We got this much left. I'm wondering, I'm like, why is he acting like we're at the conclusion of the book? Same day later. I have made the effort, and God helping me, have come safely back to this room. I must put down every detail in order. I went whilst my courage was fresh straight to the window on the south side, and at once got outside on this side. The stones are big and roughly cut, and the mortar has by process of time been washed away between them. I took off my boots and ventured out on the desperate way. I looked down once so as to make sure that a sudden glimpse of the awful depth would not overcome me, but after that kept my eyes away from it. I know pretty well the direction and distance of the Count's window, and made for it as well as I could, having regard to the opportunities available. I did not feel well as I could, having regard to the... all right. I did not feel dizzy. I suppose I was too excited, and the time seemed ridiculously short till I found myself standing on the windowsill and trying to raise up the sash. I was filled with agitation, however, when I bent down and slid feet foremost in through the window. Then I looked around for the Count, but with surprise and gladness made a discovery. The room was empty. It was barely furnished with odd things, which seemed to have never been used. The furniture was something the same style as that in the south rooms, and was covered with dust. I looked for the key, but it was not in the lock, and I could not find it anywhere. The only thing I could find was a great heap of gold in one corner. gold of all kinds, Roman and British, and Austrian, and Hungarian, and Greek and Turkish money, covered with the film of dust as though it had lain long in the ground. None of it that I noticed was less than 300 years old. There was also chains and ornaments, some jeweled, but all of them old and stained. We are, is this the Bible? That's insane. No, it's literally Dracula, by Bram Stoker. It's getting really good, y'all. At one corner of the room was a heavy door. I tried it, for, since I could not find the key of the room or the key of the outer door, which was the main object of my search, I must make further examination, or all my efforts would be in vain. It was open and led through a stone passage to a circular stairway, which went steeply down. I descended, minding carefully where I went, for the stairs were dark, being only lit by loopholes in the heavy masonry. At the bottom there was a dark, tunnel-like passage through which came a deathly, sickly odor, the odor of old earth newly turned. As I went through the passage, the smell grew closer and heavier. At last I pulled open a heavy door which stood ajar, and found myself in an old ruined chapel, which had evidently been used as a graveyard. The roof was broken, and in 2 places were steps leading to vaults, but the ground had recently been dug over, and the earth placed in great wooden boxes, manifestly those which had been brought by the Slavics. There was nobody about, and I made a search over every inch of the ground so as not to lose a chance. I went down even into the vaults, where the dim light struggled, although to do so was a dread to my very soul. Into 2 of these I went, but saw nothing except fragments of old coffins and piles of dust. In the 3rd, however, I made a discovery. There, in one of the great boxes, of which there were 50 in all, on a pile of newly dug earth, lay the Count. He was either dead or asleep. I could not say which, for eyes were open and stony, but without the glassiness of death, and the cheeks had the warmth of life through all their pallor. The lips were as red as ever, but there was no sign of movement, no pulse, no breath, no beating of the heart. I bent over him and tried to find any sign of life, but in vain. He could not have lain there long, for the earthly smell would have passed away in a few hours. By the side of the box was its cover, pierced with holes here and there. I thought he might have the keys on him, but when I went to search, I saw the dead eyes, and in them, dead though they were, such a look of hate, though unconscious of me or my presence, that I fled from the place, and leaving the Count's room by the window, crawled again up the castle wall. Regaining my room, I threw myself panting upon the bed, and tried to think. ... Ruh-roh. It was the Bible at first, too. LOL. It's Bram Stoker's Dracula. Who's the second? It's the first? I didn't know there was the second one. That's fun, actually. That's exciting to know. Yeah, it's after he's been in prison. It sounds like it's reaching a conclusion, which maybe it is in a way, but we still have like that much left. So I'm just like wondering what happens with this guy. Today is the date, June 29th. Today is the date of my last letter, and the Count has taken steps to prove that it was genuine, for again I saw him leave the castle by the same window, and in my clothes. As he went down the wall, lizard fashion, I wished I had a gun or some lethal weapon that I might destroy him, but I fear that no weapon wrought along by man's hand would have any effect on him. I dared not wait to see him return, for I feared to see those weird sisters. I came back to the library and read there till I fell asleep. I was awakened by the Count, who looked at me as grimly as a man could look as he said, "Tomorrow, my friend, we must part. You return to your beautiful England, I to some work which may have such an end that we may never meet. Your letter home has been dispatched. Tomorrow I shall not be here, but all shall be ready for your journey. In the morning come to Snagny, who have some labors of their own here, and also come some Slovaks. When they have gone, my carriage shall come for you, and shall bear you to the Borgo Pass to meet the diligence from Bukovina to Bistritz. But I am in hopes that I shall see more of you at Castle Dracula." Oh, I get, okay. So Dracula is going to come to London and is going to, start from there. I suspected him and determined to test his sincerity. Sincerity. It seems like a profanation of the word to write it in connection with such a monster, so I asked him point blank, "Why may I not go tonight?" "Because, dear sir," uh-oh, "my coachman and horses are away on a mission, but I would walk with pleasure. I want to get away at once." Period. He smiled, such a soft, smooth, diabolical smile that I knew there was some trick behind his smoothness. He said, "And your baggage?" "I do not care about it. I can send for it some other time." The Count stood up and said, with a sweet courtesy which made me rub my eyes, it seemed so real, "You English have a saying which is close to my heart, for its spirit is that which rules our boyars. Welcome the coming, speed the parting guest. Come with me, my dear young friend. Not an hour shall you wait in my house against your will, though sad I am at your going, and that you so suddenly desire it. Come." With the stately gravity, he, with the lamp, preceded me down the stairs and along the hall. Suddenly he stopped. "Hark! Hark!" Hark. I feel like this is a weird spot to take a pause, but my thing is like, what do you mean you don't want to keep him here longer than he wants to be here? You know, it's like, he's been obviously begging through his letters to get the out of there, and then now Dracula all of a sudden is like, "Oh, I don't want you to overstay." Obviously he's got something up his sleeve. By the way, y'all, I'm about to read these comments, don't worry, but I do have a cool little candle that I think is like totally adding to the atmosphere right now. Let me see. Go, Jonathan, go. Yeah, Jonathan needs to go. He really needs to go. I'm really wondering where this, I guess it's gonna proceed to him being in London, right? And then the Count's gonna be there, and then he's gonna start, you know, I don't know if I can curse on a live, but he's gonna start fucking up London. "My dog is practicing witchcraft right now, and I'm low-key scared. He is levitating." I mean, that's not your dog anymore, that's your owner. If your dog is levitating, you're his dog now. "Ask your dog the secret. Is your dog floating to the forest?" Bro, next you should read The Historian. It's a really, really good book about vampires. Definitely. I definitely will read that. "Hey, I'm watching this instead of practicing for a very important circus show." I'm happy you're here. I love that. Are you a dog or a person? "Repent and turn away from the sin and accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you shall be saved from hellfire. Gain salvation today. Jesus is coming soon. Repent." Period. Have you seen the newest Dracula? I have not seen the newest Dracula, but my dad's girlfriend wants to go see it, which is really random because my dad's girlfriend does not like ever want to go to the movies, or she's not also really big on like horror stuff, but she was like, "Have you seen the trailer for the new Dracula movie?" And I was like, "No," and then I watched it and I was like, you know what? Fuck it, I'll go see it. Hopefully I can finish the book before then though. Wow, thank you, Title Rants, for the $1.99. That is so sweet. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Hello. For anyone that's just getting here, we are reading Dracula. This is my first time reading this book in a whole, and or book as a whole, and I'm kind of having like the time of my life. I did this earlier, and then, you know, I was like settling into bed. You know, I took my bath and everything, and then I was like, you know what, I want to keep reading. But I guess when you do a live on YouTube, it saves it to your channel and then uploads it. From my understanding, this literally my first live was today, so I'm like, it would be fun to have that on my channel in case anybody wants to listen to Dracula. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm like the best at reading because y'all hear me slipping up, but I just think it's fun. I really think it's fun. Donated 20. Oh my god. Thank y'all again so much for being here. Tell us more about your bath. Ari, get the out of here. You look like Alana Del Rey. You hear that, Ari? My best friend Ari is in the chat. You all tell her how beautiful she is, even though you can't see her. She's the greatest person in the world. Again, thank you, Title Rants. I really, really appreciate that. That was so sweet. Also, Ari, you're late. I told you to check in 5 minutes and I would be on live, and it's like, what, 24 minutes? Y'all, she ain't my friend anymore. Actually, I take that shit back. He's lying. I'm the worst. Yeah. Well, close at hand came the howling of many wolves. It was almost as if the sound sprang up at the rising of his hand, just as the music of a great orchestra seemed to leap through the baton of the conductor. After a pause of a moment, he proceeded, in his stately way, to the door, drew back the ponderous bolts, unhooked the heavy chains, and began to draw it open. I live right by a highway, by the way, so if y'all hear, like, insane transformer noises. It's because I'm literally living right on the highway. I'm the worst. See, exactly. Yes, Ari, exactly. Exactly. As the door began to open, the howling of the wolves without grew louder and angrier. Their red jaws with clamping teeth and their blunt clawed feet as they leaped came in through the opening door. I knew then that to struggle at the moment against the Count was useless. With such allies as these at his command, I could do nothing. But still the door continued slowly to open, and only the Count's body stood in the gap. Suddenly it struck me that this might be the moment and means of my doom. I was to be given to the wolves, and at my own instigation. There was a diabolical wickedness in the idea great enough for the Count, and as the last chance I cried out, "Shut the door, I shall wait till morning." See, I knew he had something up his sleeve. That Dracula, he's crazy. And I covered my face with my hands to hide my tears of bitter disappointment. And with one sweep of his powerful arm, the Count threw the door shut, and the great bolts clanged and echoed through the hall as they shot back into their places. In silence, we returned to the library, and after a minute or two, I went to my own room. The last I saw of Count Dracula was his kissing his hand to me, with the red light of triumph in his eyes, and with a smile that Judas in hell might be proud of. When I was in my room and about to lie down, I thought I heard a whispering at my door. I went to it softly and listened. Unless my ears deceived me, I heard the voice of the Count. Back to your own place. Your time is not yet come. Wait, have patience. Tonight is mine. Tomorrow night is yours. Uh-oh. He's about to fuck this shit up. There was a low, sweet ripple of laughter, and in a rage, I threw open the door and saw without the three terrible women licking their lips. The hex girls from Scooby-Doo. As I appeared, they all joined in a horrible laugh and ran away. I came back to my room and threw myself on my knees. It is then so near the end. Tomorrow, Lord help me, and those to whom I am dear. I mean, y'all gotta be so honest. I mean, back in the day, I'm sure it was crazy, but there's a lot of people that would be begging for 3 vampires to be sitting at their door. Weirdly enough, I know. 3 vampire women, who I'm calling the Hex Girls, because I don't know too much about these 3 vampire women. I'm assuming they're gonna go with Dracula to England when he moves there, but these may be the last words I ever write in this diary. June 30th morning. These may be the last words I ever write in this diary. I slept till just... You slept? You slept after all that? Y'all. I slept till just before the dawn, and when I woke, threw myself on my knees, for I determined that if death came, he should find me ready. At last, I felt that subtle change in the air, and I knew that the morning had come. Then came the welcome cock crow, and I felt that I was safe. With a glad heart, I opened the door and ran down the hall. As I had seen that the door was unlocked, and now escape was before me. With hands that trembled with eagerness, I unhooked the chains and threw back the massive bolts. But the door would not move. Despair seized me. I pulled and pulled at the door and shook it till, massive as it was, it rattled. I'm sorry, y'all, coffee. It rattled in its casement. I could see the bolt shot. It had been locked after I left the Count. Then a wild desire took me to obtain the key at any risk, and I determined then and there to scale the wall again and gain the Count's room. He might kill me, but death now seemed the happier choice of evils. Without a pause, I rushed up to the east window and scrambled down the wall as before into the Count's room. It was empty, but that was as I expected. I could not see a key anywhere, but the heap of gold remained. I went through the door in the corner and down the winding stair and along the dark passage to the old chapel. I knew now well enough where to find the monster I sought. The great box was in the same place, close against the wall, but the lid was laid on it, not fastened down, but with the nails ready in their places to be hammered home. I knew I must reach the body for the key, so I raised the lid and laid it back against the wall. And then I saw something which filled my very soul with horror. There lay the Count, but looking as if his youth had been half restored, for the white hair and mustache were changed to dark iron gray. The cheeks were fuller, and the white skin seemed ruby red underneath. The mouth was redder than ever, for on the lips were gouts of fresh blood, which trickled from the corner of the mouth and ran down over the chin and neck. Even the deep, burning eyes seemed set amongst swollen flesh, for the lids and pouches underneath were bloated. It seemed as if the whole awful creature were simply gorged with blood. He lay like a filthy leech, exhausted with his repletion. I shuddered as I bent over to touch him, and every sense in me revolted at the contact, but I had to search, or I was lost. The coming night might see my own body, a banquet in a similar war to those horrid three. What are you reading? I am reading Dracula. Dracula for the first time. I felt all over the body, but no sign could I find of the key. Then I stopped and looked at the Count. There was a mocking smile on the bloated face which seemed to drive me mad. This was the being I was helping to transfer to London, where, perhaps, for centuries to come, he might, amongst its teeming millions, satiate his lust for blood, and create a new and ever-widening circle of semi-demons to battle on the helpless. The very thought drove me mad. A terrible desire came upon me to rid the world of such a monster. There was no lethal weapon at hand, but I seized a shovel which the workmen had been using to fill the cases, and lifting it high, struck, with the edge downward, at the hateful face. What? But as I did so, the head turned, and the eyes fell upon me with all their blaze of basilisk horror. The sight seemed to paralyze me, and the shovel turned in my hand and glanced from the face, merely making a deep gash above the forehead. The shovel fell from my hand across the box, and as I pulled it away, the flange of the blade caught the edge of the lid, which fell over again and hid the horrid thing from my sight. The last glimpse I had was of the bloated face, blood-stained and fixed with the grin of malice which would have held its own in the nethermost hell. I thought and thought what should be my next move, but my brain seemed on fire, and I waited with the despairing feeling growing over me. As I waited, I heard in the distance a gypsy song sung by merry voices coming closer, and through their song, the rolling of heavy wheels and cracking of whips. The Snagsny and Slavics of whom the Count had spoken were coming. With the last look around and at the box which contained the vile body, I ran from the place and gained the Count's room, determined to rush out at the moment the door should be opened. With strained ears I listened, and heard downstairs the grinding of the key in the great lock and the falling back of the heavy door. There must have been some other means of entry, or someone had a key for some of the locked doors. Then there came the sound of many feet tramping and dying away in some passage which sent up a clanging echo. I turned to run down again towards the vault, where I might find the new entrance, but at the moment there seemed to come a violent puff of wind, and the door of the winding stair blew to with a shock that set the dust from the lintels flying. Whew! When I ran to push it open, I found that it was hopelessly fast. I was again a prisoner, and the net of doom was closing around me more securely. At this point, he just needs... I hate to say it, but this is his fourth attempt at, escaping. As I write... Guys, he may be reading some freaky stuff. No, period. As I write, there is in the passage below a sound of many trampling feet and the crash of weights being set down heavily, doubtless the boxes, with their freight of earth. There was a sound of hammering. It is the box being nailed down. Now I can hear the heavy feet tramping again along the wall, with many other idle feet coming behind them. The door is shut, the chains rattle. There is a grinding of the key in the lock. I can hear the key withdrawn. Then another door opens and shuts. I hear the creaking of lock and bolts. Hark! In the courtyard and down the rocky way the roll of heavy wheels, the crack of whips, and the chorus of the Snagsny as they pass into the distance. I am alone in the castle with those horrible women. Foul. F-A-U-G-H. Mina is a woman, and there is not in common. They are devils of the pit. Okay. I shall not remain alone with them. I shall try to scale the castle wall farther than I have yet attempted. I shall take some of the gold with me, lest I want it later. I may find a way from this dreadful place. And then away for home, away for the quickest and nearest train, away from the cursed spot, from this cursed land, where the devil and his children still walk with earthly feet. At least God's mercy is better than that of those monsters, and the precipice is steep and high. At its foot a man may sleep as a man. Goodbye, all. Mina. Mina is his wife. Whew. I'm reading, sure, I'm reading the Bible, sure. Letter from Miss Mina Murray to Miss Lucy Westenra, May 9th. That's 3 days before my birthday. My dearest Lucy, forgive my long delay in writing, but I have been simply overwhelmed with work. The life of an assistant schoolmistress is sometimes trying. I am longing to be with you and by the sea, where we can talk together freely and build our castles in the air. I have been working very hard lately because I want to keep up with Jonathan's studies, and I have been practicing shorthand very assiduously. When we are married, I shall be able to be useful to Jonathan, and if I can stenograph well enough, I can take down what he wants to say in this way and write it out for him on the typewriter, at which also I am practicing very hard. He and I sometimes write letters in shorthand, and he is keeping a stenographic journal of his travels abroad. When I am with you, I shall keep a diary in the same way. I don't mean one of those 2 pages to the week with Sunday squeezed in the corner diaries, but a sort of journal which I can write in whenever I feel inclined. I do not suppose there will be much of interest to other people, but it is not intended for them. I may show it to Jonathan someday if there is in it anything worth sharing, but it is really an exercise book. I shall try to do what I see lady journalists do, interviewing and writing descriptions and trying to remember conversations. I am told that, with a little practice, one can remember all that goes on or that one hears said during a day. However, we shall see. I will tell you of my little plans when we meet. I have just had a few hurried lines from Jonathan from Transylvania. He is well and will be returning in about a week, allegedly. I am longing to hear all his news. It must be nice to see strange countries. I wonder if Jonathan and I, shall ever see them together. There is the 10 o'clock bell ringing. Goodbye. Your loving Mina. You know what? I like Mina. Tell me all the news when you write. You have not told me anything for a long time. I hear rumors, and especially of a tall, handsome, curly-haired man. Okay, so I'm guessing that's like their version of a PS back in the day. I'm reading Dracula, by the way, and I'm doing good. How are you doing? I'm having a great night so far. I'm really loving this book, honestly. Having a field day. All right. So that was the letter from Mina to Lucy, and this is the letter from Lucy to Mina. My dearest Mina, I must say you taxed me very unfairly with being a bad correspondent. I wrote you twice since we parted, and your last letter was only your second. Besides, I have nothing to tell you. There is really nothing to interest you. Town is very pleasant just now, and we go a great deal to picture galleries and for walks and rides in the park. As to the tall, curly-haired man, I suppose it was the one who was with me last night at the pop. Someone has evidently been telling tales. That was Mr. Holmwood. He often comes to see us, and he and Mama get on very well together. They have so many things to talk about in common. We met some time ago a man that would just do for you, if you were not already engaged to Jonathan. He is an excellent parti, being handsome, well off, and of good birth. He is a doctor and really clever. Just fancy. I'm gonna start saying that now. He's just fancy. He is only 29, and he has an immense lunatic asylum all under his own care. Mr. Holmwood introduced him to me, and he called here to see us, and often comes now. I think he is one of the most resolute men I ever saw, and yet the most calm. He seems absolutely imperturbable. I can fancy what a wonderful power he must have over his patients. He has a curious habit of looking one straight in the face, as if trying to read one's thoughts. He tries this on very much with me, but I flatter myself he has got a tough nut to crack. I know that from my glass. Do you ever try to read your own face? I do, and I can tell you it is not a bad study and gives you more trouble than you can well fancy if you have never tried it. He says that I afford him a curious psychological study, and I humbly think I do. I do not, as you know, take sufficient interest in dress to be able to describe the new fashions. Dress is a bore. That is slang again, but never mind. Arthur says that every day. There it is, all out. Mina, we have told all our secrets to each other since we were children. We have slept together and eaten together, and laughed and cried together. And now, though I have spoken, I would like to speak more. Oh, Mina, couldn't you guess I love him? I am blushing as I write, for although I think he loves me, he has not told me so in words. But oh, Mina, I love him. I love him. There, that does me good. I wish I were with you, dear, sitting by the fire undressing as we used to sit, and I would try to tell you what I feel. I do not know how I am writing this even to you. I am afraid to stop, or I should tear up the letter, and I don't want to stop, for I do so want to tell you all. Let me hear from you at once, and tell me all that you think about it. Mina, I must stop. Good night. Bless me in your prayers, and, Mina, pray for my happiness. Lucy. P.S. I need to not tell you this is a secret. Good night again, Lucy. All right. So this is a letter, again, from Lucy to Mina, written on May 24th, 12 days after my birthday. Shout out tourist people. My dearest Mina, thanks and thanks again for your sweet letter. It was so nice to be able to tell you and to have your sympathy. My dear, it never rains, but it pours. How true the old proverbs are. Here I am, who shall be 20 in September, and yet I never had a proposal till today. Not a real proposal, and today I had 3. Just fancy. 3 proposals in one day. Isn't it awful? I feel sorry, really and truly sorry, for 2 of the poor fellows. Oh, Mina, I am so happy that I don't know what to do with myself. And 3 proposals. But for goodness sake, don't tell any of the girls, or they would be getting all sorts of extravagant ideas and imagining themselves injured and slighted if in their very first day at home they did not get 6 at least. Some girls are so vain. You and I, Mina dear, who are engaged and are going to settle down soon soberly into old married women, can despise vanity. Well, I must tell you about the 3, but you must keep it a secret, dear, from everyone, except, of course, Jonathan. You will tell him because I would, if I were in your place, certainly tell Arthur. A woman ought to tell her husband everything. Don't you think so, dear? And I must be fair. Men like women, certainly their wives, to be quite as fair as they are. And women, I am afraid, are not always quite as fair as they should be. Well, my dear, number 1 came just before lunch. I told you of him, Dr. John Seward, the lunatic asylum man, crazy sentence, with the strong jaw and the good forehead. He was very cool outwardly, but was nervous all the same. He had evidently been schooling himself as to all sorts of little things, and remembered them, but he almost managed to sit down on his silk hat, which men don't generally do when they are cool. And then when he wanted to appear at ease, he kept playing with a lancet in a way that made me nearly scream. He spoke to me, Mina, very straightforwardly. He told me how dear I was to him, though he had known me so little, and what his life would be with me to help and to cheer him. He was going to tell me how unhappy he would be if I did not care for him, but when he saw me cry, he said he was a brute and would not add to my present trouble. Then he broke off and asked if I could love him in time. And when I shook my head, his hands trembled, and then with some hesitation, he asked me if I cared already for anyone else. He put it very nicely, saying that he did not want to wring my confidence from me, but only to know, because of a woman's heart was a free a man might have hope. Good God. And then, Mina, I felt a sort of duty to tell him that there was someone. I only told him that much, and then he stood up, and he looked very strong and very grave as he took both my hands in his and said he hoped I would be happy. and that if I ever wanted a friend, I could count him one of my best. Oh, Mina dear, I can't help crying, and you must excuse this letter being all blotted. Being proposed to is all very nice and all, that sort of thing, but it isn't at all a happy thing when you have to see a poor fellow whom you know loves you honestly, going away and looking all broken-hearted, and to know that, no matter what he may say at the moment, you are passing out of his life. My dear, I must stop here at present. I feel so miserable, though I am so happy. Shout out Champagne Problems by Taylor Swift, literally talking about refusing a proposal and a man leaving with hunched shoulders and picture in his wallet. Anyways, that's just lore. This says evening. Oh, Lucy's still writing, huh? All right. Oh yeah, she's writing. Okay. You know, I like Lucy. I'll say that's fine. It's just this is getting really gossip girly, but I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. Okay. Evening. Arthur has just gone, and I feel in better spirits than when I left off, so I can go on telling you about the day. Well, my dear, number 2 came after lunch. He is such a fine fellow, an American from Texas. That's where I'm from. Shout out Texas, sponsor this video. Just kidding. And also add an aggressive tone. Oof. All right. I'll do that when I get to the dialogue. I'm just a little bit wary of doing that because I feel like I'm gonna make a fool of myself, but. And he looks so young and so fresh that it seems almost impossible that he has been to so many places and has such adventures. I sympathize with poor Desdemona. Desdemona. That's a pretty name if I'm saying that correctly. I'm sure I'm not. When she had such a stream poured in her ear, even by a actually, even by a black man. I suppose that we women are such cowards that we think a man will save us from fears, and we marry him. I know what I would do if I were a man and wanted to make a girl love me. No, I don't, for there was Mr. Morris telling us his stories, and Arthur never told any. And yet, my dear, I am somewhat previous. Mr. Quincy P. Morris found me alone. It seemed that a man always does find a girl alone. No, he doesn't, for Arthur tried twice to make a chance, and I, helping him all I could, I am not ashamed to say it now. I must tell you beforehand that Mr. Morris doesn't always speak slang, that is to say, he never does so to strangers or before them, for he is really well educated and has exquisite manners, but he found out that it amused me to hear him talk American slang, and whenever I was present, and there was no one to be shocked, he said such funny things. I am afraid, my dear, he has to invent it all, for it fits exactly into whatever else he has to say. But this is a way slang has. I do not know myself if I shall ever speak slang. I do not know if Arthur likes it, as I have never heard him use any as yet. Well, Mr. Morris sat down beside me and looked as happy and jolly as he could, but I could see all the same that he was very nervous. He took my hand in his and said ever so sweetly, Miss Lucy, I know I ain't good enough to regulate the fixins of your little shoes, but I guess if you wait till you find a man, that is, you will go join the 7 young women with the lamps when you quit. Won't you just hitch up alongside on me and let us go down the long road together, driving in double harness? Well, he did look so good-humored and so jolly that it didn't seem half so hard to refuse him as it did poor Dr. Seward. So I said as lightly as I could that I did not know anything of hitching, and that I wasn't broke into harness at all yet. Then he said that he had spoken in a light manner, and he hoped that if he had made a mistake in doing so on so grave, so momentous an occasion for him, I would forgive him. You know, I'm getting this as like, at least for when this book was first written, was like back in the day, like free flow, just like thought, like how people would personally sit down and write letters. It's just kind of like throwing me for a loop a little bit. Some of this, the flow of these sentences. Hello, good morning, I'm watching you from Saudi. I see all your videos, big love for you. Thank you so much. Much love to you. I actually recognize your, I swear I'm not just saying that. I really do recognize your username. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Um, he really did look serious when he was saying it, and I couldn't help feeling a sort of exultation that he was number two in one day. And then, my dear, before I could say a word, he began pouring out a perfect torrent of love-making, laying his very heart and soul at my feet. He looked so earnest over it that I shall never again think that a man must be playful always, and never earnest, because he is merry at times. I suppose he saw something in my face which it checked him, for he suddenly stopped, and said with a sort of manly fervor that I could have loved him for if I had been free. Lucy, you are an honest-hearted girl, I know. I should not be here speaking to you as I am now if I did not believe you clean grit, right through to the very depths of your soul. Tell me, like one good fellow to another, is there anyone else that you care for? And if there is, I'll never trouble you a hair's breadth again, but will be, if you will let me, a very faithful friend. My dear Mina, why are men so noble when we women are so little worthy of them? I'm reading Dracula. This last sentence kind of threw me for a loop. Let me just reread that. Tell me, like one good fellow, my dear Mina, why are men so noble when we women are so little worthy of them? Here I was, almost making fun of this great-hearted, true gentleman. I burst into tears. I am afraid, my dear, you will think this is very sloppy letter in more ways than one, and I really felt very badly. Why can't they let a girl marry 3 men, or as many as want her, and save all this trouble? But this is hearsay, and I must not say it. I am glad to say that, though I was crying, I was able to look into Mr. Morris's brave eyes, and I told him out straight, yes, there is someone I love, though he has not told me yet that he even loves me. I was right to speak to him so frankly, for quite a light came into his face, and he put out both his hands and took mine. I think I put them into his, and said in a hearty way, that's my brave girl. It's better worth being late for a chance of winning you than being in time for any other girl in the world. Don't cry, my dear. If it's for me, I'm a hard nut to crack, and I take it standing up. If that other fellow doesn't show his happiness, well, he'd better look for it soon, or he'll have to deal with me. Little girl, your I don't like that he's calling her a little girl. Your honesty and pluck has made me a friend, and that's rarer than a lover. It's more selfish anyhow. My dear, I'm going to have a pretty lonely walk between this and Kingdom Come. Won't you give me one kiss? Oh my God, see, they're always wanting something. It'll be something to keep off the darkness now and then. You can, if you like, for that other good fellow. He must be a good fellow, my dear, and a fine fellow, or you could not love him. Hasn't spoken yet. That quite won me, Mina, for it was brave and sweet of him, and noble too, to a rival, wasn't it? And he so sad, so I leant over and kissed him. He stood up with my 2 hands in his, and as he looked down into my face, I am afraid I was blushing very much. He said, little girl, I hold your hand, and you've kissed me, and if these things don't make us friends, nothing ever will. Thank you for your sweet honesty to me, and goodbye. He wrung my hand, and taking up his hat, went straight out of the room without looking back, without a tear or a quiver of a pause. And I am crying like a baby. Oh, why must a man like that be made unhappy when there are lots of girls about who would worship the very ground he trod on? I know I would if I were free, only I don't want to be free. My dear, this quite upset me, and I feel I cannot write of happiness just at once, after telling you of it, and I don't wish to tell of the number 3 until it can be all happy. Ever your loving, Lucy. P.S. Oh, about number 3. I needn't tell you of number 3, need I? Besides, it was all so confused. It seemed only a moment from his coming into the room till both his arms were around me, and he was kissing me. I am very, very happy, and I don't know what I have done to deserve it. Oh, I must only try in the future to know that I am not ungrateful to God for all his goodness to me in sending to me such a lover, such a husband, and such a friend. Goodbye. Period. You know, let me see. If you're reading millions of books, I tell you, girls and boys, all the same around the world. If you're reading millions of books, I tell you, girls and boys. Reading Dracula, by the way, this is, we went from the guy who Count Dracula has been holding hostage in his castle to his wife being pen pals with her best friend. And, you know, I will say, I guess it's a nice change of pace, because I was kind of getting tired of the whole, like, please let me go, please let me go, please let me go, and Dracula being like, yeah, sure, and then, like, tricking him. So this is nice. I do like Lucy as a character, and I really like Mina, Jonathan's wife, but, you know, I feel like it's going to start getting a little convoluted if we continue on. But I guess there's only one way to find out, you know. Please say my name. How come you only have 1989 Red and Lover? Which others do you have? I have her entire discography besides the newest one, Life of a Showgirl, for Taylor Swift. Yeah. And do you like Star Wars? I love Star Wars. I watched that trailer for the new Mandalorian and Grogu movie, and I don't know. Not really feeling any hype for it, but I mean, that's fine. I'll be there. You know, it's a Star Wars movie. I don't really want to miss out a Star Wars movie in theaters, but okay. This is Dr. Seward's diary, kept in phonograph, May 25th. Dr. Seward is one of the men that Mina was speaking to. No, not Mina, that Lucy was speaking to. See, it's starting to get a little convoluted, but maybe I'm just saying that because I'm not too familiar with, like, the Dracula lore. Like, I really don't know too much about the story, so I just have to lock in, you know. All right, May 25th. Ebb, tide, and appetite today. Cannot eat, cannot rest, so diary instead. Since my rebuff of yesterday, I have a sort of empty feeling. Nothing in the world seems of sufficient importance to be worth the doing. As I knew that the only cure for this sort of thing was work, I went amongst the patients. I picked out one who has afforded me a study of much interest. He is so quaint that I am determined to understand him as well as I can. Today I seem to get nearer than ever before the heart of his mystery. I questioned him more fully than I had ever done, with the view to making myself master of the facts of his hallucination. In my manner of doing it, there was, I now see, something of cruelty. I seemed to wish to keep him to the point of his madness, a thing which I avoid with the patients as I would the mouth of hell. Memo: under what circumstances would I not avoid the pit of hell? Omnia Rome Venalius. I feel like I shouldn't be saying that out loud, actually, as I'm reading that. It feels like it's gonna, like, open a portal in my room. Hell has its price. If there be anything behind the instinct, it will be valuable to trace it afterwards accurately. So I had better commence to do so. Therefore, R.M. Renfield. That sounds awfully familiar, Renfield. R.M. Renfield, age 59. Sanguine temperament, great physical strength, morbidly excitable, periods of gloom ending in some fixed idea which I cannot make out. I presume that the sanguine temperament itself and the disturbing influence end in a mentally accomplished finish. A possibly dangerous man, probably dangerous if unselfish. And selfish men caution is a secure an armor for their foes as for themselves. What I think of on this point is when self is the fixed point, the centripetal force is balanced with the centrifugal. When duty, a cause, etc., is the fixed point, the latter force is paramount, and only accident or a series of accidents can balance it. Okay. Letter, Quincy P. Morris to Arthur Holmwood. Quincy was another one of the suitors that came to Lucy. My dear Art, We've told yarns by the campfire in the prairies and dressed one another's wounds after trying a landing at the Marquesas and drank healths on the shore of Titicaca. There's no way that's a real name. Tidy. I'm not saying it again. There are more yarns to be told, and other wounds to be healed, and another health to be drunk. Won't you let this be at my campfire tomorrow night? I have no hesitation in asking you, as I know a certain lady is engaged to a certain dinner party, and that you are free. There will only be one other, our old pal at the Korea, Jack Seward. He's coming too, and we both want to mingle our weeps over the wine cup, and to drink a health with all our hearts to the happiest man in all the wide world, who has won the noblest heart that God has made, and best worth winning. We promise you a hearty welcome, and a loving greeting, and a health as true as your own right hand. We shall both swear to leave you at home if you drink too deep to a certain pair of eyes. Come. Yours, as ever and always, Quincy P. Morris. Yo, let me read. How come? Do you like Star Wars? You ever going to the pics behind you? I'm so sorry. I don't know what that means. You ever goon? Most definitely not. Do you have Instagram? Yes, it is in my YouTube bio description thing. Take that Taylor Swift poster down. You know what? Sure. They are vinyls, LOL. What's your favorite song by her? By Taylor Swift? I would say, Peace, off of Folklore. Definitely my favorite. I don't think I could choose a favorite album though. That would be, it's not Life of a Showgirl, I'll tell you that. After 3 days, I'm watching you. My English will be good. I'm bad in English. Yeah, I mean, that's fun. I feel like that's fun. This is literally just, I've been wanting to read this book for a while, and I decided that, you know, fuck it, why not start it today, and why not read it with y'all? Yeah. And you know, I was reading it earlier too. I read this early for 2 hours on a previous live. And like all my videos that I have for my channel have been edited and they're uploading. I have them scheduled to upload. So I have like 2 days to myself to just like, you know, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit down and read this. And I'm glad I did. I'm enjoying it. I really am. But I'm like I said, I'm starting to get a little bit, it's starting to get a little convoluted for me. But I think that's just because I went in not knowing like all the lore. You know what I mean? Telegram from Arthur Holmwood to Quincy P. Morris, May 26. Count me in every time. I bear messages which will make both your ears tingle. Art. Earlier I had this guy with Art the Clown profile picture in my comments. It was really scaring me. All right. This is Mina Murray's journal. Okay, so we went from Jonathan to Mina's journal. Like I said, I actually like Mina, so I'm excited to get to know her more. I'm assuming that's what's about to happen. July 24th, Whitby. Okay. Let me get more comfortable. Lucy met me at the station, looking sweeter and lovelier than ever, and we drove up to the house at the crescent in which they have rooms. This is a lovely place. The little river, the Esk, runs through a deep valley, which broadens out as it comes near the harbor. A great viaduct runs across, with high piers, through which the view seems somehow further away than it really is. The valley is beautifully green, and it is so steep that when you are on the high land, on either side, you look right across it, unless you are near enough to see down. The houses of the old town, this side away from us, are all red-roofed, and seem piled up one over the other anyhow, like the picture we see of Nuremberg. Right over the town is the ruin of Whitby Abbey, which was sacked by the Danes, and which is the scene of the part of Marmion, where the girl was built up in the wall. It is a most noble ruin of immense size and fully of beautiful and romantic bits. There is a legend that a white lady is seen in one of the windows. Between it and the town, there is another church, the parish one, round which is a big graveyard, all full of tombstones. This is to my mind the nicest spot in Whitby, for it lies right over the town and has a full view of the harbor and all up the bay to where the headland called Kettleness stretches out into the sea. It descends so steeply over the harbor that part of the bank has fallen away, and some of the graves have been destroyed. In other place, part of the stonework of the graves stretches out over the sandy pathway far below. There are walks with seats beside them through the churchyard, and people go and sit there all day long, looking at the beautiful view and enjoying the breeze. I shall come and sit there often myself and work. Indeed, I am writing now, with my book on my knee and listening to the talk of 3 old men who are sitting beside me. They seem to do nothing all day but sit here and talk. The harbor lies below me, with, on the far side, one long granite wall stretching out into the sea, with the curve outwards at the end of it, in the middle of which is a lighthouse. A heavy seawall runs along outside of it. On the near side, the seawall makes an elbow crooked inversely, and its end too has a lighthouse. Between the 2 piers there is a narrow opening into the harbor, which then suddenly widens. It is nice at high water, but when the tide is out, it shoals away to nothing, and there is merely the stream of the Esk, running between banks of sand with rock here and there. Outside the harbor on this side, there rises for about half a mile a great reef, the sharp of which runs straight out from behind the south lighthouse. At the end of it is a buoy with the bell, which swings in bad weather and sends an mournful sound of the wind. They have a legend here that when a ship is lost, bells are heard out at sea. I must ask the old man about this. He is coming this way. He is a funny old man. He must be awfully old, for his face is gnarled and twisted like the bark of a tree. He tells me that he is nearly 100, and that he was a sailor in the Greenland fishing fleet when Waterloo was fought. He is, I am afraid, a very skeptical person, for when I asked him about the bells at sea and the White Lady at the Abbey, he said very brusquely, I wouldn't fash my soul about them, miss. Them things be all wore out. Mind, I don't say that they never was, but I do say that they wasn't in my time. They be all very well for comers and trippers and the like, but not for a nice young lady like you. Them feet folks from York and Leeds that be always eating cured herons and drinking tea and looking out to buy cheap jet would creed aught. I wonder, Mazel, who'd be bothered telling lies to them, even the newspapers, which is full of fool talk. You know, have y'all ever read Wuthering Heights? It's like that's like how Joseph speaks in Wuthering Heights, but this was a lot more tolerable and easier to read. We got you to hello. How's your day going? My day is going very good. How's your day going? Your name is Dylan as well. Great minds think alike. I thought he would be a good person to learn interesting things from, so I asked him if he would mind telling me something about the whale fishing in the old days. He was just settling himself to begin when the clock struck 6, whereupon he labored to get up and said, I must gang againwards home now, miss. My granddaughter doesn't like to be kept waiting when the tea is ready, for it takes me time to crammel aboon the grease, for there be a many of 'em, and miss, I lack belly timber sarely by the clock. Y'all, I'm so serious. I'm so worried that one of these words is gonna be a slur. So I'm trying to like tread carefully. He hobbled away, and I could see him hurrying, as well as he could, down the steps. The steps are a great feature on the place. They lead from the town to the church. There are hundreds of them. I do not know how many, and they wind up in a delicate curve. The slope is so gentle that a horse could easily walk up and down them. I think they must originally have had something to do with the Abbey. I shall go home too. Lucy went out, visiting with her mother, and as they were only duty calls, I did not go. How's your day going? For God so loved the world, he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Period. August 1st. I came up here an hour ago with Lucy, and we had a most interesting talk with my old friend and the 2 others who always come and join him. He is evidently the Sir Oracle of them, and I should think must have been in his time a most dictatorial person. He will not admit anything and down faces everybody. If he can't out-argue them, he bullies them and then takes their silence for agreement with his views. Lucy was looking sweetly pretty in her white lawn frock. She has got a beautiful color since she has been here. I noticed that the old men did not lose any time in coming and sitting near her when we sat down. She is so sweet with the old people. I think they all fell in love with her on the spot. Even my old man succumbed and did not contradict her, but gave me double share instead. I got him on the subject of the legends, and he went off at once into a sort of sermon. I must try to remember it and put it down. It be all fool talk, lock, stock, and barrel. That's what it be, and now... Here we go, y'all. This is about to get rough. And naught else. These bands and wafts... I'm so serious. I really don't think I can even... You know what? Here we go. It's about to sound like gibberish, y'all. I'm so sorry. These bands and wafts, both ghost, barguest, boggles, and alment, and dizzy women of garden, maybe no. It makes me ireful to think of them. Why, it's them that, not content with printing lies on paper and preaching them out of pulpits, does want to be cutting them on the tombstones. Look here all around you, and whate'er ye will. All them steens holding up their heads as well as they can out of their pride. It's a cant, simply tumbling down with the weight of the lies wrote on them. Here lies the body, or sacred of the memory, wrote on all of them, and yet in nigh half of them there be'nt no bodies at all, and the memories of them be'nt carried a pinch of snuff about, much less sacred. Lies, all of them nothing but lies of one kind or another. My God, but it will be a queer scouterment at the day of judgment when they come tumbling up in their death sarks, all drooped together and trying to drag their tombstones with them to prove how good they was. Some of them trembling and dithering, with their hands that dozened and slippery from lying in the sea, that they can't even keep their grip of them. That was a journey. I could see from the old fellow's self-satisfied air that the way in which he looked around for the approval of his cronies that he was showing off, so I put in a word to keep him going. Oh, Mr. Swales, you can't be serious. Surely those tombstones are not all wrong. Yablins, there may be a poorish few not wrong, savin' where they make out the people too good. For there be folk that do think a bomb bowl be like the sea, if only it be their own. The whole thing be only lies. Now look you here. You come here a stranger, and you see this Kirkgarth. I nodded, for I thought it better to assent, though I did not quite understand his dialect. Girl, me too. I knew it had something to do with the church. He went on, and you constate that all these steens be folk that be happy here, snod and snog. I assented again. Then that be just where the lie comes in. Why, there be scores of these laybeds that be tomb as old duns, bagbogs on Friday night. He nudged one of his companions, and they all laughed. And my gog, how would they be otherwise? Look at once, the aftest abaft the beer bank, read it. I need to get past this guy. I'm so serious. I'm Muslim. We have the same story in our book, and I love to listen to another books. Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. I love you so much. Thank you. Hey, can I have you white chocolate? Edward. Okay, I went over and read. Edward Spinsklack, master mariner, murdered by pirates off the coast of Andres, April 1854, age 30. When I came back, Mr. Swales went on, good God, can he just stop? Like, I'm so serious. Who brought him home, I wonder, to hap him here, murdered off the coast of Andres, and you constated his body lay under, Why, I could name ye a dozen whose bones lie in the Greenland seas above, he pointed northwards, or where the currents may have drifted them. There be the steens around ye. Ye can, with your young eyes, read the small print of the lies from here. This Braithwaite Lowry, I knew his father, lost in the lively off Greenland in 20, or Andrew Woodhouse, drowned in the same way. Drowned in the same season, 1777, or John Paxton, drowned off Cape Farewell a few years later, or old John Rawlings, whose grandfather sailed with me, drowned in the Gulf of Finland in 50. Do you think that all these men will have to make a rush to Whitby, then be trumpet sounds? I have me antherums aboot it. I will tell ye that when they got here, they'd be Jomlin and Jocelyn, one another that way, that it'd be like a fight up on the ice in the old days, when we'd be at one another from daylight to dark and trying to tie up our cuts by the aurora borealis. This was evidently local pleasantry, for the old man cackled at it, and his cronies joined in with gusto. But, I said, surely you are not quite correct, for you start on the assumption that all the poor people, or their spirits, will have to take their tombstones with them on the day of judgment. Do you think that will be really necessary? Well, what else be they tombstones for? Answer me that, miss. To please their relatives, I suppose. This is Dracula. This is not the Bible. To please their relatives, you suppose. This he said with intense scorn. How will it pleasure their relatives to know that lies is wrote over them, and that everybody in the place knows that they be lies? He pointed to a stone at our feet, which had been laid down as a slab, on which the seat was rested, close to the edge of the cliff. Read the lies on that Thruffstein, he said. The letters were upside down to me from where I sat, but Lucy was more opposite to them. So she leant over and read, sacred to the memory of George Cannon, who died in the hope of the glorious resurrection, on July 29th, 1873, falling from the rocks at Kettleness. This tomb was erected by his sorrowing mother to her dearly beloved son. He was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. Really, Mr. Swiles, I don't see anything very funny in that. She spoke her comment very gravely and somewhat severely. You don't see aught funny, ha, but that's because ye don't gown the sorrowing mother was a hellcat that hated him because he was a crooked, a regular lamenter he was, and he hated her so that he committed suicide in order that she mightn't get an insurance she put on his life. He blew nigh the top of his head off with an old musket that they had for scaring crows with. Damn. 'Twarn't for crows then, for it brought the clegs and the doups to him. That's the way he fell off the rocks. And as to hopes of a glorious resurrection, I've often heard him say, mazel, that he'd hoped he'd go to hell, for his mother was so pious that she'd be sure to go to heaven, and he didn't want to addle where she was. Wow, that's dark. Now, isn't that Steen at any rate? He hammered it with his stick as he spoke, a pack of lies. And won't it make Gabriel keckle when Geordie comes panting up the grease with the tombstone balance on his hump and asks to be took as evidence? I'm going to be so honest, but I'm a little bit lost. Once this guy starts talking, I did not know what to say, but Lucy turned the conversation as she said, rising up, "Oh, why did you tell us of this? It is my favorite seat and I cannot leave it. And now I find I must go on sitting over the grave of a suicide. That won't harm ye, my pretty, and it may make poor Geordie gladsome to have so trim a lass sitting on his lap. Ew, that won't hurt ye. But I've sat here off and on for nigh 20 years past, and it hasn't done me no harm. Don't ye fash about them as lies under ye, or that doesn't lie there either. It'll be time for ye to be getting scart when ye see the tombstones all run away with, and the place as bare as a stubble field. There's the clock, and I must gang. My service to ye, ladies," and off he hobbled. Thank God. Lucy and I sat a while, and it was all so beautiful before us that we took hands as we sat, and she told me all over again about Arthur and their coming marriage. That made me just a little heartsick, for I haven't heard from Jonathan for a whole month. Damn, not hearing from your husband for a whole month, that's crazy. Where is this? Is this the Bible? No, it's Dracula. It is Dracula. The same day, I came up here alone, for I am very sad. There was no letter for me. I hope there cannot be anything the matter with Jonathan. The clock has just struck 9. I see the lights scattered all over the town, sometimes in rows where the streets are, and sometimes singly. They run right up the Esk and die away in the curve of the valley. To my left, the view is cut off by a black line of roof of the old house next to the abbey. The sheep and lambs are bleating in the fields away behind me, and there is a clatter of donkeys' hoofs up the paved road below. The band on the pier is playing a harsh waltz in good time, and further along the quay there is a Salvation Army meeting in a back street. Neither of the bands hears the other, but up here I hear and see them both. I wonder where Jonathan is and if he is thinking of me. I wish he were here. Oh, does that mean Jonathan died? Did I manifest that? Doctor said hi. Hello. Good to see y'all. Dr. Seward's diary, June 5th. That's one day after my brother's birthday. The case of Renfield grows... Okay, Renfield. This name sounds really familiar to me, but the case of Renfield grows more interesting the more I get to understand the man. He has certain qualities very largely developed: selfishness, secrecy, and purpose. I wish I could get at what is the object of the latter. He seems to have some settled scheme of his own, but what it is I do not know. His redeeming quality is a love of animals, though indeed he has such curious turns in it that I sometimes imagine he is only abnormally cruel. His pets are of odd sorts. Just now his hobby is catching flies. He has at present such a quantity that I have had myself to expostulate. To my astonishment, he did not break out into a fury as I expected, but took the matter in simple seriousness. He thought for a moment and then said, "May I have 3 days? I shall clear them away." Of course, I said that would do. I must watch him. June 18th. He has turned his mind now to... Okay. He has turned his mind now to spiders and has got several very big fellows in a box that is disgusting. He keeps feeding them flies, and the number of the latter is becoming sensibly diminished, although he has used half his food in attracting more flies from outside to his room. Oh, that made me sick to my stomach. Can we get a view of the picture behind you? Those are vinyl records. Is there a specific one you want to see or what? Okay. Oh God, we're still talking about these spiders. His spiders are now becoming as great a nuisance as his flies, and today I told him that he must get rid of them. He looked very sad at this, so I said that he must clear out some of them at all events. He cheerfully acquiesced to this and gave him the same time, and I gave him the same time as before for reduction. He disgusted me much while with him, for when a horrid blowfly, bloated with some carry-on food, buzzed into the room, he caught it, held it exultantly for a few moments between his fingers and thumb, and before I knew what he was going to do, put it in his mouth and ate it. I scolded him for it, but he argued quietly that it was very good and very wholesome, that it was life, strong life, and gave life to him. This gave me an idea, or the rudiment of one. I must watch how he gets rid of his spiders. Please, God, no. He has evidently some deep problem in his mind, for he keeps a little notebook in which he is always jotting down something. Whole pages of it are filled with masses of figures, generally single numbers added up in batches, and then the totals added in batches again, as though he were focusing some account, as the auditors put it. Ooh, I don't know what it is. When I was a kid, I was scared of spiders, but as I got older, I really stopped caring about it. And then I don't know, these past like 4 or 5 months, every time I see like I don't even like to say the word because you know how your phone listens to you and you'll be like, oh, like I really want like a jump rope or whatever. And then you'll get like 5 ads on jump ropes on your phone all of a sudden. I hate saying the word spider because I'm like, damn, then my phone's gonna start showing me shit about spiders. So, not having the time of my life with this one, but July 8th. There's a method in his madness, and the rudimentary idea in my mind is growing. It will be a whole idea soon, and then, oh, unconsciousness cerebration, you will have to give the wall to your conscious brother. I kept away from my friend for a few days so that I might notice if there were any change. Things remain as they were, except that he has parted with some of his pets and got a new one. He has managed to get a sparrow and has already partially tamed it. His means of taming is simple, for already the spiders have diminished. Those that do remain, however, are well fed, for he still brings in the flies by tempting them with his food. Good God. July 19th, we are progressing. My friend has now a whole colony of sparrows, and his flies and spiders are almost obliterated. When I came in, he ran to me and said he wanted to ask me a great favor, a very, very great favor, and as he spoke, he fawned on me like a dog. I asked him what it was, and he said, with a sort of rapture in his voice and bearing, a kitten, a nice, little, sleek, playful kitten that I can play with and teach and feed and feed and feed. I was not unprepared for this request, so I had noticed how his pets went on increasing in size and vivacity. But I did not care that his pretty family of tame sparrows should be wiped out in the same manner as the flies and spiders. So I said I would see about it and asked him if he would not rather have a cat than a kitten. His eagerness betrayed him as he answered, oh yes, I would like a cat. I only asked for a kitten lest you should refuse me a cat. No one would refuse me a kitten, would they? I shook my head and said that at present I feared it would not be possible, but that I would see about it. His face fell, and I could see a warning of danger in it, for there was a sudden fierce sidelong look which meant killing. The man is an undeveloped homicidal maniac. I shall test him with his present craving and see how it will work out, then I shall know more. Who is this Renfield guy? Art, no! Y'all, Art the Clown is back. Seriously, look alive. Be kind. Art the Clown. Isn't it crazy that I'm still reading? Like, but y'all be nice. 10 p.m. I have visited him again and found him sitting in a corner brooding. When I came in, he threw himself on his knees before me and implored me to let him have the cat, that his salvation depended on it. I was firm, however, and told him that he could not have it, whereupon he went without a word and sat down gnawing his fingers in the corner where I had found him. I shall see him in the morning early. This Renfield guy is a character, huh? July 20th. Visited Renfield very early, before attendant went his rounds. Found him up and humming a tune. He was spreading out his sugar, which he had saved, in the window, and was manifestly beginning his fly catching again, and beginning it cheerfully and with a good grace. I looked around for his birds, and not seeing them, asked him where they were. He replied, without turning around, that they had all flown away. There were a few feathers about the room, and on his pillow a drop of blood. I said nothing, but went and told the keeper to report to me if there were anything odd about him during the day. 11 a.m. The attendant has just been to see me to say that Renfield has been very sick and has diagnosed a whole lot of feathers, or disgorged a whole lot of feathers. My belief is, doctor, he said, that he has eaten his birds and that he just took and ate them raw. Okay. 11 p.m. I gave Renfield a strong opiate tonight, enough to make even him sleep, and took away his pocketbook to look at it. The thought that has been buzzing around my brain lately is complete, and the theory proved. My homicidal maniac is of a peculiar kind. I shall have to invent a new classification for him and call him a Zoophagous, life-eating maniac. All right. When he desires, what he desires is to absorb as many lives as he can, and he has laid himself out to achieve it in a cumulative way. He gave many flies to one spider and many spiders to one bird, and then wanted a cat to eat the many birds. What would have been his later steps? I'll tell you what his later steps would have: eat the cat. Oh. It would almost be worthwhile to complete the experiment. It might be done if there were only a sufficient cause. Men sneered at vivisection, and yet look at its results today. Why not advance science in its most difficult and vital aspect, the knowledge of the brain? Had I even the secret of one such mind, did I hold the key to the fancy of even one lunatic, I might advance my own branch of science to a pitch compared with which Burden Sanderson's physiology or Ferrier's brain knowledge would be as nothing. If only there were a sufficient cause. I must not think too much of this, or I may be tempted. A good cause might turn the scale with me, for may not I too be an exceptional brain congenitally? It's good, so let's do Jake the Snake. Alright, y'all, what a journey. How well the man reasoned. Lunatics always do within their own scope. That's valid. That's valid if I've ever heard it. I just had an idea for the next time I do this. Hopefully I don't forget the idea. I wonder how many lives he values a man. Or if, what time is it? 9:31? That's not bad. That's not bad, right, guys? Yeah. I wonder how many lives he values a man, or if at only one. He has closed the account most accurately and today begun a new record. How many of us begin a new record with each day of our lives? To me, it seems only yesterday that my whole life ended with my new hope, and that truly I began a new record. So it shall be until the great recorder sums me up and closes my ledger account with the balance to profit or loss. Oh, Lucy, Lucy, I cannot be angry with you, nor can I be angry with my friend whose happiness is yours. But I must only wait on hopeless and work. If I could have as strong a cause as my poor mad friend there, a good, unselfish cause to make me work, that would be indeed happiness. 6 a.m. for you? Oh my God. I am not a, you know what, that's not true. I was about to say, I'm not a morning person. I'm not like an everyday morning person, but like every other day I like to, wake up pretty early, get my coffee and all that jazz. Thank God it's morning in our country. No, for real. Seriously. Yeah, it's 9:30 p.m. here, which is fine. I like it. I'm having fun. You know, lately I don't really get tired until about like 11. So yeah. Okay, let's see. The attendant has just seen me say Renfield has been. Okay. We are back to Mina's journal. July 26th. I am anxious, and it soothes me to express myself here. It is like whispering to oneself and listening at the same time. And there is also something about the shorthand symbols that makes it different from writing. I am unhappy about Lucy and about Jonathan. I had not heard from Jonathan for some time and was very concerned, but yesterday dear Mr. Hopkins, who is always so kind, sent me a letter from him. I had written asking him if he had heard, and he said the enclosed had just been received. It is only a line dated from Castle Dracula, and it says that he is just starting for home. That is not like Jonathan. I do not understand it, and it makes me uneasy. Then, too, Lucy, although she is so well, has lately taken to her old habit of walking in her sleep. Her mother has spoke to me about it, and we have decided that I am to lock the door of our room every night. Mrs. Westenra has got an idea that sleepwalkers always go out on roofs of houses and along the edges of cliffs and then get suddenly wakened and fall over by a despairing cry that echoes all over the place. Poor dear, she is naturally anxious about Lucy, and she tells me that her husband, Lucy's father, had the same habit. that he would get up in the night and dress himself and go out if he were not stopped. Lucy is to be married in the autumn, and she is already planning out her dresses and how her house is to be arranged. I sympathize with her, for I do the same. Only Jonathan and I will start in life in a very simple way, and shall have to try to make both ends meet. Mr. Holmwood, he is Arthur Holmwood, only son of Lord Godalming, is coming up here very shortly, as soon as he can leave town, for his father is not very well, and I think dear Lucy is counting the moments till he comes. She wants to take him up in the seat of the churchyard cliff and show him the beauty of Whitby. I dare say it is the waiting which disturbs her. She will be all right when he arrives. July 27th. No news from Jonathan. I am getting quite... Oh, she's just repeating the same thing. That's why I feel like I've already read this. We sleep at 2 or 4 a.m. in our country. I think we are the Dracula. Yeah, that's funny. That's good. That's good. That was good. July 27th. No news from Jonathan. I am getting quite uneasy about him, though why I should, I do not know, but I do wish that he would write, if it were only a single line. Lucy walks more than ever, and each night I am awakened by her moving about the room. Fortunately, the weather is so hot that she cannot get cold, but still the anxiety and the perpetually being awakened is beginning to tell on me, and I am getting nervous and wakeful myself. Thank God, Lucy's health keeps up. Mr. Holmwood has been suddenly called to ring to see his father, who has been taken seriously ill. Lucy frets at the postponement of seeing him, but it does not touch her looks. She is a trifle stouter, and her cheeks are a lovely rose pink. She has lost the anemic look which she had. I pray it will all last. August 3rd. Another week goes by and no news from Jonathan, not even to Mr. Hawkins, from whom I have heard. Oh, I do hope he is not ill. He surely would have written. I look at that last letter of his, but somehow it does not satisfy me. It does not read like him, and yet it is his writing. There is no mistake of that. Lucy has not walked much in her sleep the last week, but there is an odd concentration about her which I do not understand. Even in her sleep, she seems to be watching me. She tries the door, and finding it locked, goes about the room searching for the key. August 6th. Another 3 days and no news. This suspense is getting dreadful. If I only knew where to write to or where to go to, I should feel easier. But no one has heard a word of Jonathan since that last letter. I must only pray to God for patience. Lucy is more excitable than ever, but is otherwise well. Last night was very threatening, and the fishermen say that we are in for a storm. I must try to watch it and learn the weather signs. Today is a gray day, and the sun, as I write, is hidden in thick clouds over Kettleness. Everything is gray, except the green grass, which seems like emerald amongst it, gray earthy rock, gray clouds tinged with the sunburst at the far edge, hang over the gray sea, into which the sand points stretch into gray figures. The sea is tumbling in over the shallows and sandy flats with a roar, muffled in the sea mist drifting inland. The horizon is lost in a gray mist, all vastness. The clouds are piled up like giant rocks, and there is a brool over the sea that sounds like some passage of doom. Dark figures are on the beach here and there, sometimes half shrouded in the mist, and seem men like trees walking. The fishing boats are racing for home, and rise and dip in the ground, swell as they sweep into the harbor, bending to the scuppers. Here comes old Mr. Swales. He is making straight for me, and I can see, by the way he lifts his hat, that he wants to talk. Can you read it with more enthusiasm? Well, it is Dracula, so I don't know how enthusiastic I can get. I have been quite touched by the change in the poor old man. When he sat down beside me, he said in a very gentle way, "I want to say something to you, miss." I could see he was not at ease, so I took his poor old wrinkled hand in mine and asked him to speak fully. So he said, leaving his hand in mine, "I'm afraid, my dearie, that I must have shocked you by all the wicked things I've been saying about the dead and such like for weeks past, but I didn't mean them, and I want ye to remember that when I'm gone. We odd folks that be daffled, and with one foot abaft the crock whoal, don't altogether like to think of it, and we don't want to feel scart of it, and that's why I've took to making light of it, so that I cheer up my own heart a bit. But Lord love ye, miss, I ain't afraid of dying, not a bit, only I don't want to die if I can help it. My time must be nigh at hand now, for I be odd, and 100 years is too much for any man to expect. And I'm so nigh it that the odd man is already whetting his scythe. You see, I can't get out of the habit of caffing about it all at once. The shafts will wag as they be used to. Some day soon the angel of death will sound his trumpet for me. But don't ye do all and greet my dearie, for he saw that I was crying. If he should come this very night, I'd not refuse to answer his call. For life be, after all, only a waiting for something else than what we're doing, and death be all that we can be rightly depend on. But I'm content, for it's coming to me, my dearie, and coming quick. It may be coming while we be looking and wondering. Maybe it's in that wind over there, the sea, that's bringing with it loss and wreck, and sore distress, and sad hearts. Look, look, he cried suddenly. There's something in that wind, and in the host beyond the sounds, and looks, and tastes, and smells like death. It's in the air, I feel it coming. Lord, make me answer cheerful, when my calls come. He held up his arms devoutly and raised his hat. His mouth moved as though he were praying. After a few minutes' silence, he got up, shook hands with me, and blessed me, and said goodbye, and hobbled off. It all touched me and upset me very much. I was glad when the Coast Guard came along with his spyglass under his arm. He stopped to talk with me, as he always does, but all the same kept looking at a strange ship. "I can't make her out," he said. "She's a Russian by the look of her, but she's knocking about in the queerest way. She doesn't know her mind a bit. She seems to see the storm coming, but I can't decide whether to run up north in the open or to put it here. Look there again. She is steered mighty strangely, for she doesn't mind the hand on the wheel, changes about with every puff of wind. We'll hear more of her before this time tomorrow." Okay, what? It's true. Can you read it with more enthusiasm? Are you gay? Are you gay? Hello, hello, hello. You there? Are you gay? All right, this is cutting from the Daily Graph, August 8th, pasted in Mina Murray's journal from a correspondent. So this is from a newspaper that Mina pasted into her journal. Okay. One of the greatest and suddenest storms on record has just been experienced here, with results both strange and unique. The weather had been somewhat sultry, but not to any degree uncommon in the month of August. Saturday evening was as fine as it was ever known, and the great body of holiday makers laid out yesterday for visits to Mulgrave Woods, Robin Hood's Bay, Rig Mill, Runswick, Staithes, and the various trips in the neighborhood of Whitby. The steamers Emma and Scarborough made trips up and down the coast, and there was an unusual amount of tripping both to and from Whitby. The day was unusually fine till the afternoon, when some of the gossips who frequent the East Cliff churchyard and from the commanding eminence watched the wide sweep of sea visible to the north and east, called attention to a sudden show of mares' tails high in the sky to the northwest. The wind was then blowing from the southwest in the mild degree, which in barometrical language is ranked number 2 a light breeze. The Coast Guard on duty at once made report, and one old fisherman, who for more than half a century has kept watch on weather signs from the East Cliff, foretold in an emphatic manner the coming of a sudden storm. The approach of sunset was so very beautiful, so grand in its masses of splendidly colored clouds, that there was quite an assemblage on the walk along the cliff in the old churchyard to enjoy the beauty. Before the sun dipped below, the black mass of Kettleness, standing boldly athwart the western sky, its downward way was marked by myriad clouds of every sunset color: flame, purple, pink, green, violet, and all the tints of gold, with here and there masses not large, but of seemingly absolute blackness, in all sorts of shapes, as we outlined as colossal silhouettes. The experience was not lost on the painters, and doubtless some of the sketches of the prelude of the great storm will grace the RA and RI walls in May next. More than one captain made up his mind then and there, that his cobble or his mule, as they termed the different classes of boats, would remain in the harbor till the storm had passed. The wind fell away entirely during the evening, and at midnight there was a dead calm, a sultry heat, in that prevailing intensity which, on the approach of thunder, affects persons of a sensitive nature. There were but few lights in sight at sea, for even the coasting steamers, which usually hugged the shore so closely, kept well to seaward, and but few fishing boats were in sight. The only sail noticeable was a foreign schooner with all sails set, which was seemingly going westwards. The foolhardiness or ignorance of her officers was a prolific theme for comment whilst she remained in sight, and efforts were made to signal her to reduce sail in the face of her danger. Before the night shut down, she was seen with sails idly flapping as she gently rolled on the undulating swell of the sea, as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. Whew, that was kind of fun. I think it's very beautifully written for sure. It's true, I know, right? Shortly before 10 o'clock, the stillness of the air grew quite oppressive, and the silence was so marked that the bleating of a sheep inland or on the barking of a dog in the town was distinctly heard, and the band on the pier, with its lively French air, was like a discord in the great harmony of nature's silence. A little after midnight came a strange sound from over the sea, and high overhead the air began to carry a strange, faint, hollow booming. Then, without warning, the tempest broke, with the rapidity which at the time seemed incredible and even afterwards is impossible to realize. The whole aspect of nature at once became convulsed. The waves rose in growing fury, each overtopping its fellow, till in a very few minutes the lately glassy sea was like a roaring and devouring monster. White crested waves beat madly on the level sands and rushed up the shelving cliffs. Others broke over the piers, and with their spume swept the lanthorns of the lighthouses which rise from the end of either pier of Whitby harbor. The wind roared like thunder, and blew with such force that it was with difficulty that even strong men kept their feet, or clung with grim clasp to the iron stanchions. It was found necessary to clear the entire pier from the mass of onlookers, or else the fatalities of the night would have increased manyfold. To add to the difficulties and dangers of the time, masses of sea fog came drifting inland, white, wet clouds which swept by in ghostly fashion, so dank and damp and cold that it needed but little effort of imagination to think that the spirits of those lost at sea were touching their living brethren with the clammy hands of death. And many a one shuddered as the wreaths of sea mist swept by. At times the mist cleared, and the sea for some distance could be seen in the glare of the lightning, which came thick and fast, followed by such peals of thunder that the whole sky overhead seemed trembling under the shock of the footsteps of the storm. Some of the scenes thus revealed were of immeasurable grandeur and absorbing interest. The sea, running mountains high, threw skywards with each wave mighty masses of white foam, which the tempest seemed to snatch at and whirl away into space. Here and there a fishing boat with a rag of sail, running madly for the shelter before the blast, now and again the white wings of a storm-tossed seabird. On the summit of the east cliff, the new searchlight was ready for experiment, but had not yet been tried. The officers in charge of it got it into working order, and in the pauses of onrushing mist swept with it the surface of the sea. Once or twice its service was most effective, as when a fishing boat, with gunwale under water, rushed into the harbor, able, by the guidance of the sheltering light, to avoid the danger of dashing against the piers. As each boat achieved the safety of the port, there was a shout of joy from the mass of people on the shore, a shout which from a moment seemed to cleave the gale and was then swept away in its rush. Before long, the searchlight discovered some distance away a schooner with all sails set, apparently the same vessel which had been noticed earlier in the evening. The wind had been by this time back to the east, and there was a shudder amongst the watchers on the cliff as they realized the terrible danger in which she now was. Between her and the port lay the great flat reef on which so many good ships have from time to time suffered, and, with the wind blowing from its present quarter, it would be quite impossible that she would fetch the entrance of the harbor. It was now nearly the hour of high tide, but the waves were so great that in their troghs the shallows of the shore were almost visible, and the schooner, which with all sails set, was rushing with such speed that, in the words of one old salt, she must fetch up somewhere, if it was only in hell. Wow. Then came another rush of sea fog, greater than any hitherto, a mass of dank mist, which seemed to close on all things like a gray pall, and left available to men only the organ of hearing. For the roar of the tempest, and the crash of the thunder, and the booming of the mighty billows came through the damp oblivion even louder than before. The rays of the searchlight were kept fixed on the harbor mouth across the east pier, where the shock was expected, and men waited breathless. The wind suddenly shifted to the northeast, and the remnant of the sea fog melted in the blast, and then, myriable dictu, between the piers, leaping from wave to wave as it rushed at headlong speed, swept the strange schooner before the blast, with all sails set, and gained the safety of the harbor. The searchlight followed her, and a shudder ran through all who saw her, for lashed to the helm was a corpse with drooping head, which swung horribly to and fro at each motion of the ship. No other form could be seen on the deck at all. What? That's crazy. What's my favorite song of all time? It's probably Better Off by Ariana Grande. What's your favorite song? Okay, I'm gonna read a little bit more and then I'm gonna call it, page 80, read till 87. I guess I could do that. Actually, no, I should probably get to sleep because I have to help my dad do some stuff in the morning, so we'll call it on this page. All right. Hand of a dead man, however, out to please, the gravel wash back. I'm trying to remember where I left off. I remember where I left off. I'm trying to find it. So, okay. A great awe came on all as they realized that the ship, as if by miracle, had found the harbor, unsteered save by the hand of a dead man. However, all took place more quickly than it takes to write these words. The schooner paused not, but rushing across the harbor, pitched herself on that accumulation of sand and gravel, washed by many tides and many storms, into the southeast corner of the pier, jutting under the east cliff, known locally as Tate Hill Pier. There was, of course, a considerable concussion as the vessel drove up and down the sand heap. Every spar, rope, and stay was strained, and some of the top hammer came crashing down. But strangest of all, the very instant the shore was touched, an immense dog sprang up on deck from below, as if shot at by the concussion, and running forward, jumped from the bow on the sand. Making straight for the steep cliff where the churchyard hangs over the laneway to the east pier so steeply that some of the flat tombstones, the rough stands, or through stones, as they call them in Whitby vernacular, actually project over where the sustaining cliff had fallen away. It disappeared in the darkness, which seemed intensified just beyond the focus of the searchlight. It so happened that there was no one at the moment on Tate Hill Pier, as all those whose houses are in close proximity were either in bed or were out on the heights above. Thus the Coast Guard on duty on the eastern side of the harbor, who at once ran down to the little pier, was the first to climb aboard. The men working the searchlight, after scouring the entrance of the harbor without seeing anything, then turned the light on the derelict and kept it there. The Coast Guard ran aft, and when he came beside the wheel, bent over to examine it, and recoiled at once as though through some sudden emotion. This seemed to pique general curiosity, and quite a number of people began to run. It is a good way round from the West Cliff by the drawbridge to Tate Hill Pier, but your correspondent is a fairly good runner and came well ahead of the crowd. When I arrived, however, I found already assembled on the pier a crowd whom the Coast Guard and police refused to allow to come on board. By the courtesy of the chief boatman, I was, as your correspondent, permitted to climb on deck, and was one of a small group who saw the dead seaman whilst actually lashed to the wheel. Jeez. It was no wonder that the Coast Guard was surprised, or even awed, for not often can such a sight have been seen. The man was simply fastened by his hands, tied one over the other, to a spoke of the wheel, between the inner hand and the wood as a crucifix, the set of beads on which it was fastened being around both wrist and wheel, and all kept fast by the binding cords. The poor fellow may have been seated at one time, but the flapping and buffeting of the sails had worked through the rudder of the wheel and had dragged him to and fro, so that the cords with which he was tied to had cut the flesh to the bone. Accurate note was made of the state of things, and a doctor, Surgeon J.M. Caffin of 33 East Elliott Place, who came immediately after me, declared, after making examination, that the man must have been dead for quite 2 days. In his pocket was a bottle, carefully corked, empty save a little roll of paper, which proved to be the addendum to the log. The Coast Guard said the man must have tied up his own hands, fastening the knots with his teeth. The fact that a Coast Guard was the first on board may have some complications later on in the Admiralty Court, where the Coast Guards cannot claim salvage, which is the right of the first civilian entering on a derelict. Already, however, the legal tongues are wagging, and one young law student is proudly asserting that the rights of the owner are already completely sacrificed, his property being held in contravention of the statutes of mortmain, since the tiller, as embellishmentship, is not proof, or delegated possession is held in a dead hand. It is needless to say that the dead steersman has been reverently removed from the place where he held his honorable watch and ward till death, a steadfastness as noble as that of the young Casabianca, and placed in the mortuary to await inquest. Already the sudden storm is passing, and its fierceness is abating. Crowds are scattering backward, and the sky is beginning to redden over the Yorkshire wolds. I shall end, in time, for your next issue, further details of the derelict ship which found her way so miraculously into the harbor in the storm. Whew. All right, well, I'd say that's a good spot to end it on. We're gonna end it on right here. And yeah, I've been reading for almost 2 hours now. Not complaining, that was fun. Thank you so much for watching. I'll definitely be doing this again soon. I have been meaning to get into Dracula for so long, so I just thought this would be a fun way to do it, you know? To the 2 people that have been here from the very beginning, I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone's time. Time is a very precious thing. I do have a YouTube channel where I react to music videos. I do different, just different stuff that entertains me, that helps me keep steadfast with my sobriety. And yes, thank you and good night. Good night to you as well. I am so grateful for you. All right, y'all be safe out there.